Care Lab Day. I'm so excited to see you guys.
Yes, yes. And we have an awesome guest here today. Very excited to talk with her. We have Dannelle LeBlanc, and I'm going to do just a quick little intro right now. Dannelle was a former family caregiver. She cared for her father-in-law with Parkinson's disease. She is also trained, and wait, for what? Like, was it like 10 years, Dannelle? Is that
Yeah.
right?
It was 12 years.
12 years. Okay, yes. So street cred up. She's also trained as a certified holistic nutritionist. She's a current certified senior advisor. She creates resources, support, and conversations for those who care. And she is now also the newly minted author of From the Chrysalis, Creating Quality of Health Where the Healthcare System Doesn't. And that's coming September of this year, September 2024. So look out for that. I can't tell you how happy I am to have you here today, Dannelle. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, now before
Absolutely.
we start the important stuff, I need to ask a question to get the ice broken a little bit.
Okay, yeah,
So
let's break that ice.
hopefully it's not very controversial, but I have two questions for you.
That's the best way to start a question, Brandy. Is this hopefully this isn't controversial. Just a little icebreaker. Let's dive right
Right,
in.
exactly. I think it's not bad. So okay, the thing that everybody says these days is you have to do your own self care, and that's even more important when you're a caregiver, right? But it also feels like you don't have no time for that. So I want to know two things. One, what is a self care thing that you do that you love? And two, what is a self care thing that people do that you hate?
That other people do?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming if you hate it, you don't do it. So
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
things that
Okay.
are like typical, like, oh yeah, people always say they do this for self care, but that is terrible for me because XYZ. So tell me something you love that's a self care thing, and something you hate that's a self care thing.
Okay. A self-care thing that I love that is I think for anyone, whatever you define as self-care, um, it's who you are. You'll find it in who you are. And for me, I love music and dancing. And so, regardless of what kind of space I'm in, emotionally or physically, I dance by myself,
That is so awesome. I
That's
love it.
amazing. Yes.
and for myself.
Hmm.
And I know I look crazy and I do not care.
That's the
I
best
think
kind
that's
of
And
awesome.
dancing.
yes, and
Hmm.
so that's something that fuels my body, fuels my mind, fuels my spirit, and it's just almost like doing a little cheerleading dance for myself. Um, so when it comes to a self care that I hate, let me think about that. You know, I can't really say that there's something that I hate because I think it just depends on the person.
Mm.
Whatever works for one person may not work for another. So if I say that I hate something, it may be the greatest thing for someone else. So I'm going to have to say that reframe the question to speak to whatever works for you, for an individual person.
That's a fair, non-spicy answer. I'll accept it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's probably the most. So what I'll say is, I mean, and I think I've said this before, for me, like my best form of self-care is exercise because for
Mm.
me, like it's not it's not even about like exercise in my body. It's about creating mental space for me and in my mind, in my brain, and exercise is something that helps me to like focus and be in the moment, and then it puts me in a good mood for the rest of the day. So like
Yes.
definitely my favorite form of self-care is exercise. And it can really, I've talked about like running in the past, but really and truly like anything. It could be cycling, it could be doing, 20 minutes of yoga. It almost doesn't matter what it is. Just like anything that gets me out of my head and into my body is
Yes.
is really really helpful for me personally. I would say I think a kind of self-care that other people might enjoy that I personally don't enjoy. Not saying like, if this is your jam, go do it.
Yes.
That I'm all about, like you said, Dannelle, everyone doing the thing that really is the right thing for them. But for me personally, I really don't like baths. Like soaking. Like
Look, I don't
so
like being clean, so
no, no, no. I mean, like, I take.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh, I love
No,
baths.
I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, I bathe, I take showers, but I don't love. I don't
See,
love
this is the kind of
soaking.
answer I want.
Yeah, I don't love soaking in the tub because it always seems. And I will try, and every once in a while, I'm like, this sounds like it'll be nice. Like I'll just sit and relax in the tub, um, especially if it's like really cold outside. Because I'm always cold, which is gonna make the second part of my answer seem super weird. So once I'm in the tub, I always get like bored and too hot. I'm like I'm
Oh,
like sitting there for like 5 minutes. It's like, okay, this is nice. But then slowly I'm like, oh, it's too hot and I've got nothing to do. And then like my mind starts to wander to,
going.
yeah, exactly. So for me, yeah, I know a lot of people like having a nice warm like bath and just chill in there is, amazing. For me, no, I'd rather be like sweating it out on a bike any day.
I hear
That's
you.
so good
I
because
hear you. What
that
about
is
you, Brandy?
okay. I have lots of self care things that I like to do, but because of your answer, Amelia, my answer is gonna be bath and reading. And so I like the one thing I like to do, like especially if we get a chance to go out of town at a hotel or something where there's an actual bathtub that I could sit in comfortably, because like the ones in my house are kind of too small.
Hmm.
Um, I like to have a bath. You're right. I need something to do because my other favorite thing to do is to read, and I don't really get a chance to read anything really, not even just for pleasure, but just like it's hard to sit and read when you have three little kids. And
Yeah.
so I like to have a book and be in the bathtub and read until I get too hot, and then I put a little cold water in or get out, and that's my thing. Um, but one thing that other people really love to do that I really just can't get with is getting a massage.
Mm.
It's like,
Mm.
there's literally nothing wrong with it, but it just doesn't relax me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just about the random person that's there doing
Yes.
this, or it's how much
Yes.
money I spent to do it, or just that it's only for a certain amount of time and then it's like back to the real world, which is every self care actually. But I don't know, it just does not click with me. It's just not one of those things that click with me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it really does, because you're in a place that you don't know, and it's a person, random person you don't know. And so it's hard to relax. Yeah. But I have had the experience of going in for a massage, and for whatever reason, the lady who did it, we just connected. And it
Yeah.
was, I was like crying during the
Ooh.
massage because it released emotions and tensions out of my muscles and out of my body. And it was just an
Mhm.
incredible experience. So I think it can be great if you find the right environment and the right person. And I just lucked out.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think so much of that is about like the like energy and connection between two people, and
Yes.
whether or not like you can really get that kind of emotional let go, not just like a
Yes.
physical relaxation, but like to me good self-care is about the the ability to emotionally like let go and relax and just like be content in a space for a little while. And I do think that that can be hard to do if you're like there with a stranger, like you're not wearing all your clothes, like it's,
Right.
but so that connection has to be kind of like just right. I get that. I get that for sure. Hey, Brandy,
I am
you're
talking a
muted.
lot, but I'm on mute.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a thing. I'm not saying I'll never do it again because maybe I'll get that connection point and have a good one. But if I have my ultimate options, it's like, oh, I have time available, and what am I going to do? That's not the thing I'm running to.
Mm, you're running a bath.
I'm running a bath and getting a book because I have a whole long list of books that I need to be read.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mhm.
If I
Okay.
could just make a comment about the question itself and just an association that's popping up in my brain is that
Uh-huh.
whatever the form of self-care is, I think that if it helps us to complete the stress cycle, you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with that concept. I just learned about it myself, I think last year. But I was listening to the Unlocking Us podcast with Brene Brown, and one evening she had guests Emily and Emilia Nagoski, I believe it's is how you pronounce it, and they were talking about completing the stress cycle, and that can include moving the body, deep breathing, positive social interaction, laughter, affection, crying, or some form of creative expression. And so the idea is that, you know, we're carrying all of these stressors, but we're not, it's being stored in our bodies, even though we may
Mhm.
have handled whatever the task was, or you know what the whatever the immediate situation is, but then we're not processing that, releasing that stress from our bodies. And so whatever the self-care is, whatever that looks like for us, that it allows us to complete that stress cycle rather than carrying it forward.
I
I
think,
love that
yeah.
so much because that's so true, because even if you did the task, you might still be holding onto it. And it kind of aligns with this other thing I started doing recently, which is I downloaded this app on my phone, like a little breathing app. And so I scheduled it to pop up and remind me to do it in my transitions because I was feeling like my day was just like one long blob of like stuff, whether it's get up, deal with the kids, go to work, deal with the kids, do more work. It was just like continuous and there was no off time. And so I don't
Yes.
know where I got this from, but it was like in your transitions, do some deep breathing. And that's kind of what you're saying in that kind of process is like, okay, I did my morning routine. I'm getting ready to walk into work. Okay, I'm going to breathe, let all the morning stuff go, and then come into work with a little bit of a fresh mind just from 1 minute of breathing. And it really did help. So I love the framing of that so that you can think about it in that way, imagery of it.
Yeah, that's not something that I had necessarily like heard of or thought about before in terms of completing a stress cycle, but it does make so much sense that there has to be some kind of release, whatever that
Hmm.
is, or it just gets stored in your body. And of course, we know that, chronic stress is really really bad for the brain, it's bad for the body, it's bad for
Hmm.
everything. I also think that's a really good segue into our kind of like real, not, although this has been a good conversation already, I would say, but this is a good segue into, some of the topics that you came here to talk about, Dannelle, talking about chronic health issues, particularly as it relates to caregiving. I think one of the things that you had shared with us before you came on the show was the fact that about 40% of caregivers report having a chronic illness while caring for family, which impacts their ability to care, of course, for the person that they're caring for, but themselves as well. So I'm going to hand off to you here, and would you talk a little bit about that and your experience helping others, your own experience, all of that stuff.
Yes. So, as you said, that CDC report that says that about 40% of us are experiencing some kind of chronic illness while we're trying to help care for a loved one. And just like it was for me being a family caregiver and with so many of others, where we're doing this work and not recognizing, we don't have sometimes a name or a definition for what it is we're doing because we're just, taking care of loved ones. That's just part of family. This is another thing that I learned in retrospect, that in order to sustain caregiving, we have got to address chronic illness. And it's just, the numbers are astronomical. We have billions of dollars in healthcare expenses that are centered around preventable chronic diseases. And because so much of caregiving takes place outside of a traditional healthcare system, we have to address it at home. And for me, during that period of time when I was caring for my father-in-law, the symptoms that I was experiencing were incremental. So they intensified over time, just like it is with caregiving. The experience intensifies over time. And I've said before, sometimes it can be like, we're a frog sitting in a pot of water that gets turned up to high. And so we don't realize until the point of boiling that we are in trouble. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was like for me. So I want to emphasize the importance of specifically food as medicine. And I listened to a podcast that you guys did with the pharmacist.
Yeah, with Reshma. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. That was a fun episode. We're going to have her back again here soon too. Yay.
Yes. And so that was fantastic. And so I'm connecting the idea of food as medicine in how we care for ourselves and for our loved ones outside of the healthcare system, because we don't get that message emphasized enough, I think, in from a medical perspective. So one of the things that I learned, and so I'm speaking to you as just like just everyday regular person, because I think that's where the power is. Okay. I learned that less than, I think it was about 25 hours are spent for in medical training that is focused on nutrition. About 25 hours. Okay, and you think about, the years spent, I think, that's like 3 days of training that's focused on nutrition and the power of food, what we choose to eat, what we consume to heal us. And it's so simple that I think we overlook it. And when we're not receiving that information from the healthcare system, that's not being emphasized, then it's difficult for us to translate that into our everyday lives.
Hey there, it's Emilia. Listen, I am so thrilled to have a great resource like Ask Sammy as part of the Care Lab team, and here's why. It's a game changer for aging in place because it makes it so simple. All you do is ask. Just type in your question or even tell Sammy what the problem is and get tailored solutions. Everything from innovative adaptive equipment to comprehensive resources. It's a great way to become more empowered, to live more independently, and to live with greater confidence. And my favorite thing about how Ask Sammy works is it's deeply rooted in dignity and practicality. So, whether you're a fellow therapist, a care partner, or someone who's seeking solutions for themselves, visit www.asksammy.com. We're going to link it in the show notes so you can find it there. Start making home more accessible today. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, it's sort of the last thing that comes up in the conversation a lot of time, right? We talk about symptoms, we talk about medications with doctors, and to a certain extent, maybe like lifestyle adjustments, but like really getting into the nitty gritty of how the things that we put into our body affects our body isn't necessarily the first thing in the conversation, which if you think about it, especially when it comes to like chronic conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It,
Yes,
it, it's kind of crazy because of
it is
course
crazy.
and listen, I'm not a dietitian or nutritionist, I'm not a physician or like food scientist or anything like that, so
Right.
I'm speaking really as a lay person here too, but it just
Yes.
makes sense to me that what we put in our body is what our body has to work with.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's the only thing that our body has to work with besides like the air that we're breathing, right? And any chemicals out here that we're exposed to. So it's got to matter a lot what we put in because those are the only building blocks that our body has to work with, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna go to a place that so
I'm
my
going to
book
go
is,
with you anywhere you
yeah,
want.
okay, so y'all
We're following.
come along, y'all come along with me. So um just to share a little bit about where I'm at right now. My book is called From the Chrysalis: Creating Quality of Health Where the Healthcare System Doesn't. And I called it From the Chrysalis because my experience was like being inside of a cocoon and being isolated, not just from a caregiving standpoint, but from a chronic illness standpoint. And so now, after focusing on rebuilding my health, my wings are still wet.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just now coming from the chrysalis. And the physical manifestation of my chronic illness is connected to a spiritual journey. And that spiritual journey took me to a place that is, I'm not even sure yet how to, outside of this, and which is the reason why I wrote this book, because it was so hard to explain what was going on with my body when I didn't have a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So I had people saying, "Gosh, what's wrong with Dannelle? What's going on with her?" And um, and I didn't have a name. I didn't have a name for it. So it took almost losing my life before I got to a place of realizing that I was going to have to save myself. I was going to have to save myself. And one of the places that I went was, I asked for spiritual guidance, okay, because it was so scary to be in a place where every single day I was, for a couple of years, I was fighting for my life. I was weighing whether or not I could still be here on this planet Earth because I could not find a place of peace in my own body from morning until night. And that went on for a couple of years where I was dedicated to healing myself. And I found there's a series of books called The Essene Gospel of Peace. And in book 2, and I identify as a Christian, but this was some information that I had never come across before. I'd never seen before. And in the Essene Gospel of Peace, in book 2, Jesus said, and so Jesus is talking to the sick, and he is giving specific instructions about how to heal yourself. And Jesus said, and your bodies become what your foods are, even as your spirits likewise become what your thoughts are. He also said, so eat always from the table of God, the fruits of the trees, the grain and the grasses of the field, the milk of beasts and the honey of bees. For everything beyond these is of Satan and leads by the way of sins and of diseases unto death. The other piece of this, which I think is fascinating.
First of all, can I just say, dang, Jesus put it right out there.
Yeah, he put it right out there. So, let me tell you, this is the first time I'm talking about this outside of my book. And so, I know that, so I'm uncomfortable. Okay. I'm just telling you, I'm uncomfortable because I know this is outside of the center of conversation around food as medicine and, healthcare and our experiences, but this was my reality. The other piece about this food as medicine and healing disease that is talked about in this book that really fed is like the foundation of my spiritual experience, healing, is that we have both a heavenly father and an earthly mother. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I never really heard about the earthly mother being talked about in, at church or, within a religious setting. And what occurs to me is that part of what we are experiencing, because it's not, just me or, people with, chronic illnesses, but just in general, we as human beings, as humanity currently living on this earth, is a disconnection from the earth.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that when you brought that up, is that like there is such a disconnect between how what we do impacts our bodies, and we have, as a society, elevated medicine, Western medicine particularly, as the end all be all of like how to feel good, and have neglected all these other age old things and also everyday things, because you eat multiple times a day. And we've neglected that as if it doesn't matter when it
Yes.
actually does. Even like our deficiency in vitamin D, right?
Yeah.
Like we, in general, as a whole, American society, we're deficient in vitamin D, and some people more than others. And we get that primarily from the sun. And we are
Yes.
inside the house or in the office all the time. And we don't think about our medicine literally being stepping outside and spending 10 or 15 minutes outside. So I hear what you're saying about the divorcing of what's around us in our environment, and how that impacts us.
Yes. It's all connected. And the idea
Mhm.
that there's so much instant gratification. So we live in a world of, everything being accelerated and so fast paced. And that is reflected in how we practice Western medicine, in that, and again, so I'm saying this in the context of we need our doctors, we need our nurses, we need our medical professionals. And when it comes to creating a quality of health, preventing chronic illness, that is on us. And what we do each day, what we consume, and how we interact in our relationship with our Mother Earth. And so it's really difficult to, I think the biggest challenge for us is a shift in mindset, and being willing to go through uh, an experience that is uncomfortable. So much of our medicine is about um, treating an immediate or an acute symptom. And so um, once that's done, what are we willing to do in order to build on that? And it requires being willing to be uncomfortable. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to be
Harder.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's harder. I mean, if you think about it, the analogy I would say is our healthcare system is like putting a band-aid on a pretty good sized wound, right? Like it's okay, and you got some treatment and you stopped the bleeding, but you didn't really deal with the reason that you got the wound in the first place. So if you keep doing the same thing, which is like, I don't know, going through this doorway that's got a nail sticking out of it, and you come to me and I put a band-aid on it and you keep going through that same door. That's the way you get in and out. And you keep scratching yourself. All we're doing is repeating the cycle, right? And so if we're managing your blood sugar, or if we're dealing with your high cholesterol, or we're dealing with some other chronic illness, yeah, we're giving you band-aids by giving you medicine and stuff like that. But if we haven't dealt with the underlying root cause of it, we're not ever really going to get better.
Yes, exactly. And, I hope that I don't wish my experience on anyone, but, I had to get to a place where I was literally choosing life or death. And
Mhm.
that was after trying, different medications prescribed. I was on steroids. I mean, it was just a cornucopia of medications. And being in a place where you realize that it's not working, and wanting to create, I wanted to be vibrant, to live my life to its fullest. But the messages that I was receiving was that I was going to have to accept a minimal quality of
Mm,
life and being on
mhm.
these medications. And and everything in me wanted to resist that, to say
Yeah.
no, I want to live my life to the best of my capability. And so that was the challenge. And finding a way through that by healing my body with foods and um, natural supplements was what saved my life.
Did you also have, as part of that, just because it's been a part of this conversation already, like getting reconnected with like nature or the outdoors or anything like that, also part of your journey in terms of like getting back in touch with Mother Earth? Or for you, is it really that focus on nutrition, or is there a combination there? Or I mean, and understanding, I don't think there's no right or wrong for
Yeah.
people. It's just like, it's what's your journey, you know?
Well, Amelia, so I was in a place where I was unable to leave the house
Mm.
um, for about a couple of years. I think I had a handful of absolutely essential outings where I had to get out and do something. But it was um, extremely uncomfortable to do so. Um, and trying to act normal in public when you are like, you can barely stand to be in your own body is really, really difficult.
Mm.
Trying to, and I did that for a long time until I got to the point of critical mass where, I was working, I was, doing stuff for other folks, um, volunteering my time and energy, other people's projects, and all while pretending to be okay. While internally I was just like barely able to function. And so to answer your question, the connection with Mother Nature was eating whole foods, and it was also breathing. So you talked about, the breathing, the app that you found that was helping you with the different breathing exercises. So focusing on my breathing, stretching my body. So, you also mentioned yoga. So I don't know if you would call what I was doing yoga. I was just making excuse me.
You were doing what felt good to your body. You were moving
Yeah,
your
we'll
body
call
in a way that felt good. That's what it's all about.
Faux yoga.
Yep.
Faux yoga.
Yoga.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. We're not gonna call it that. We're definitely not gonna call it that.
I mean,
yes. Okay. Because I had so like one of the symptoms that I had was my entire arms, my hands, my arms back through my shoulder blades would go completely numb, kind of like, like you hit you hit your funny bone, and that feeling that you get when you hit your funny bone on your elbow. That it was like that all the time. When I woke up in the morning, it was almost a year. There was a period of almost a year where I would wake up and my arms, like I couldn't feel my hands. And doing the stretches and getting my lymph moving, my lymphatic system, and helping it to drain was key to my healing as well. And so it was just a practice of feeling my body, paying attention to my body, and moving in ways that helped me feel better.
Care Lab listeners, it's Brandy, and as the founder of a platform made to make aging in place easier for everyone, I knew it would be incomplete if we did not have education, especially for caregivers. So whether you're a family caregiver or somebody who trains a whole organization, Higher Standards caregiver training videos are for you. I'm so proud that we were able to partner together with Emilia in order to provide these to you because they're easy for everybody. You get great occupational therapist-led training on topics like transfers and how to care for someone as they age, or maybe as things change when you have Parkinson's. So no matter if you're the loved one who doesn't know exactly what to do next because things are getting different, or if you're a professional who trains caregivers that go into the community and you need some quality education, you get both from Higher Standards Caregiver Training. And you need to check them out at higherstandardscaregivertraining.com.
I like you bringing up that idea. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brandy.
No, go ahead. I'll follow up.
I like that idea of that you put out there of like paying attention, right? Of being in tune with your body, understanding how it feels. And I think like that goes right together both with, doing things like moving your body in ways that feel good, but it also goes back to things like nutrition, right? How often do we eat without being in tune with how what we're eating actually makes us feel?
Yes.
Right. And I think if you can be more, at least for me personally, as I've started to become more mindful about that in like my own health and in my own life as I get older and I encounter more things, like the difference can be so significant in how like maybe that burger looks and smells and tastes really good, but my body doesn't feel that good after I eat it. So
after it,
I would rather have a really delicious salad. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we lack I think so much because we have this like go, 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 go. The next thing, we're going so fast that we don't take any time to pay attention to ourselves and how we feel anymore. And I think that's got to be, it's especially true for caregivers because you're focused entirely on someone else, not yourself. So
Yeah.
it's so easy to just have that lack of awareness and attention for your own body and your own circumstances.
And not even to make you feel bad, you meaning all of us, about like not paying attention to your body. It's also how our society kind of elevates medicine over food, right? So like here's what can happen. You eat a burger, it looks good, it tastes good, why you enjoy it, and then an hour later your body doesn't feel that great. You have indigestion, you take some gas X, right? Instead
Yes.
of thinking like, oh, what did I just do? Oh, I ate a burger. Oh, I mean, pay attention to that next time. If I eat another burger or I eat more red meat or something, how do I feel after that? I have some control over that as opposed to just putting
Yes.
band-aids on top of things, right? And I think it's
Yes.
exactly what you said, Amelia, about we move too fast, but it's also about what we're influenced to do in our society. Because pharma companies make lots of money by telling us like we fix XYZ problems. Instead, they don't make any money if you just stop eating red meat or
Right.
you
Yeah.
eat it in smaller portions because it doesn't make your body feel good. You know what I mean? And like you are
Yes.
the expert on your body. And I think the society has tried to take that away from us and try to tell us that
Yes.
we're not necessarily the experts on our bodies and a doctor is.
Yes.
And I am not. Listen, I have a doctorate. I appreciate the education that I got. But every client that I engage with, you're the expert on you, your environment, and you. I'm just here to add additional value from whatever stuff I've learned that might be helpful to you. But you need to start with
That's right.
the expectation of like, here's what's happening to me and how I feel, and here's how I need to deal with it. And then when you do things to listen to your body, then you can find things in our environment to help us. So I think that's just so powerful what you say, and it doesn't have to feel like woo woo or like, oh, I'm outside of the scope. It's just a matter of like knowing that this is really important and you should take ownership over what your body does and feels.
Yes, that is it exactly. That's it exactly, is taking ownership and
Hmm.
knowing that we are equipped and capable to create a quality of health for ourselves that can't be found in the healthcare system because it's about what we do each day.
Hmm.
It's about
And
At
like,
the
taking ownership and like to an extent, like
yes.
you got to be your own hero. And that's not me saying you have to be your own hero because everyone else in the world is going to fail you. That's not it at all. We have to
Right,
be our
right.
own heroes because we have to take ownership of what we want that to be, right?
Hmm.
Yes.
I know I made fun of like self care in our first question, but like the same reason that some people like some things and other people don't like other things because you pay attention to how your mind and body feel when you do those things, right? And we elevate that, right? And we talk about self care a lot. Well, we don't talk about how that impacts like all the other things that you do every day too. Not just the time you take away from things and what makes your body feel good, but what makes your body feel good every day, every hour, every part of the day, and what you can do to influence that.
Yes. And that's why I brought up, this idea of having both, a heavenly father when it comes to our how we fuel and feed our spirit, that we recognize that we have both. Okay, because we are conditioned to believe in a father god, but without the presence of an earthly mother, and everything is connected. That you can't have health in your body without addressing both the physical and the spiritual.
Yeah, that's why we talk about mental health being so important and being connected to others. And I keep saying this all the time, but there's this really awesome a series on Netflix about the blue zones, and there's themes across multiple cultures that are all over the world, that those places have people that live to be 100 and more in a higher rate than other places, and they have similar themes even though their lives and the way they live is completely different, and like the countries they come from and the places they are, but there are still those themes, and it really has to do with connection and your ability to be connected to people, your environment, and yourself, to really, if you boil it down. So my question for you is like, in your experience of working towards getting to a better place, was some of that happening while you were a caregiver, or did it all start after you were caregiving? And do you think those two things are connected?
Yes. So it did. So it was happening while I was a caregiver, because I was so focused on the needs of my father-in-law and my family. I it just got progressively worse. There was a point at which I was managing 4 households. I was managing my own household. I was managing my father-in-law's household. He lived 2 doors down from us. Um, I was managing his previous residence. So he had moved to live next to us due to advancing Parkinson's disease in 2005. And when he moved, he never sold his old house, which was like 30 minutes away. And so I was managing renovations on that house, like, roofing, foundation, complete interior redesign. So I was managing that. And then the 4th house was my mom's home after she passed away. Then, because she'd worked so hard for that house, my sisters and I were, really wanting to keep it. So I was managing renovations on that house, and um, all while uh, carrying a 2-pound tumor in my abdomen that I didn't know about. I was just having extreme gut pain and didn't realize until I got to the point where one night the pain got so bad I couldn't see, and went into the ER, and they found the tumor, and it had wrapped around my right ovary, and removed that. And so all of these health issues I was carrying with me while I was caregiving. And one of the reasons why I'm here is I don't I want to help other people to avoid getting to a place where, you've got a tumor, you've got some kind of life-threatening situation, because you've set aside, your your own health needs in order to take care of others, because that took me out. um that took me out. And so it's taken a long time for me to get to a space where I really had no choice but to address my health issues. And it takes a whole lot more time and energy and resources to deal with a critical health situation than it does to help prevent or mitigate, an advanced situation.
Yeah, I think it's super powerful, your story, and I appreciate that you're going to put it, or you have put it, into book form. And how can people connect with this? I know this probably will come out a little bit before the book comes out, but is there a wait list or pre-order, or where will they find it?
Yes. So that people can pre-order the book. If you go to my website, caregivertransitions.com, then there's information there you can click on to link to pre-order, to get more details about the book. thank you for asking.
Yeah, I'll say I've already pre-ordered it, guys, because I've known Dannelle for a little while now, and she's honestly one of my favorite. You know, the I would say the best thing about like being an entrepreneur has really been all of the wonderful people that I have met along the way, and I really have met. I mean, Brandy, I met you, and I mean, I have met some really, really wonderful people. Dannelle is like right up there on that
Oh,
list.
right
So
back
I
at you.
I was so happy when I heard that you had written it, and happy to pre-order. I cannot wait to read it, because every time I talk to you, it's just like little truth bombs of wisdom just going off all over the place, all over the place. Are there other ways that folks can like find you, or I know you've created so many resources over the years. Are there other ways that folks can get in contact with you or find those resources?
Yes. So, again, caregivertransitions.com is a place to access those resources or to connect with me. You can find the Caregiving Community Guide there. So, that is a digital resource guide that I created for family caregivers. That's available for download, and I'm working on one of my projects is working on updating the national guide by 2025, because there's always new resources and people and insights and information, and so keeping that thing updated is like a full time it's like a full-time job in and of itself. But that's something that that's one of the primary resources that I recommend for folks. I've also customized it because I'm in the Dallas area. It's also been customized for 12 different North Central Texas counties. Um, but I wanted to create a national version as well, so that anyone across the U.S. could connect with specifically caregiving resources, covering a wide variety of topics. And there's educational information and tips in there on different terminologies, because caregiving is like it's like learning to speak a new language, right? Okay, I mean, we don't whatever
Our
we don't
healthcare system is an entirely different language that not
yes.
even everyone in the healthcare system speaks all of the languages that are required for our healthcare system. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Yes, we need a
absolutely.
translator. Okay, we need some translation going on here, because we've got to be able to, you know, um, we've got to be able to use all this information that's out there that's being provided to us in a medical setting. Okay, well, what does that look like? How do I do that on a day-to-day basis in real life? How do I
Hmm.
know what questions to how do I know what questions to ask if I don't speak the language?
Right.
And so that's another um, way that I hope that that guide can help people.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It was an
Yeah,
Thank
thank
absolute
you.
you.
pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Everyone, if you made it all the way to the end of this episode, if you enjoyed it, please take a second now to leave us a review and a rating. That is one of the best ways to make sure that other people are able to find Care Lab as a podcast. So please take a second to leave that review and rating right now. Don't forget also to hit that little button to subscribe so you get updated when our next episode drops, which is every Friday, just in case you were wondering. And other than that, we will see you next time right here on Care Lab. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.